Hey everyone, welcome to Be the Change. My name is Lily Mott, and today I'm going to be talking about how change starts with community. Today we are celebrating 4 years of Be the Change podcast. I want to start by taking a little trip down memory lane and sharing the story of how Be the Change podcast began. 4 years ago, on June 1st, I finished my workday as a press intern in Washington, D.C., and took off running down Independence Avenue until I reached the Black Lives Matter protest at Lafayette Square Park. I pulled out my phone, which was only on 7% of the time, and began to record audio. I spent the next 7 hours at the protest, at one point being tear gassed and fired on by police with rubber bullets. After I got back to my apartment that night, I decided to record my experience on my phone as an audio note. The next day, on June 2nd, I published that note as the first episode of what is now Be the Change podcast. Now, 4 years later, I published over 200 episodes, featuring over 200 guests who are making change in their communities and their countries around the world. This year, I launched Be the Change Media Network to share even more inspiring stories with an even wider audience. Now I host a live radio show featuring young changemakers based in Cardiff, around Wales, and in other parts of the UK. And I also host Checking In with Changemakers on Instagram Live, which features past guests of the podcast. Be the Change Media Network would not be possible without all of those guests who have shared their stories with me over the years, and I wanted to celebrate some of those guests in this special episode of the podcast. This episode features some of my favorite and most memorable guests, and I asked each of them to tell me about how they are being the change they wish to see in the world. So, without further ado, let's get started with this special episode celebrating 4 years of Be the Change podcast.
Hi everyone, I'm Selin. I'm a global gender equality activist from Istanbul. My journey as an activist started at high school with finding the first He4She club among high schools in Turkey. Since then, my passion has led me to collaborate with incredible organizations like UN Women and becoming a national gender youth activist. Today, I wear many hats, from advocating on the ETRE Girls Board and the Youth for Gender Advisory Board for UNICEF to shaping the future as part of Fast Company Turkey's Gen Z Advisory Board. I'm also the proud founder of Girl Up Istanbul and co-founder of Girls Who Code Turkey, empowering girls through education and technology. I am being the change I wish to see by advocating for gender equality and equal access to education. I work from grassroots organizations to the United Nations agencies, non-governmental organizations, and even private corporations to raise awareness, to advocate, and push for change. This can involve running workshops, collaborating with other organizations, attending panel discussions, and even editing content for the youth newsletter for UN Women to empower young people on this issue. I'm passionate about this issue, and I know that we all have a role to play. So it is time to break down barriers, lift each other up, and build a future where everyone has a chance to thrive.
I'm Cameron Samuels. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm from Katy, Texas. I'm being the change by demanding a seat at the table in decisions affecting students' everyday experiences in schools. Book bans, curriculum censorship, and increasingly religious and authoritarian school policies impact our futures. It's time we reclaim the narrative over educational policymaking. We deserve the agency to decide what we can learn, read, and explore in schools. We shouldn't let adults make decisions about us without us. Our future depends on an honest, truthful, expansive education that empowers young leaders of today for the challenges of contemporary socioeconomic and political issues. Students have powerful voices. Education is a cornerstone of democracy. And with students engaged in advancing Texas, we are conquering Texas-sized issues with our seat at the table.
My name is Jiva, and I'm currently the Programs Manager for the Youth Direct Action Fund at Future Coalition. I provide young people with the resources they need to drive youth-led initiatives, including direct action, organizational startups, community services, and technology support. I am being the change I wish to see by empowering the next generation of leaders to create impactful and sustainable solutions for their communities.
My name is Beth, and I'm a student nurse and a youth advocate. I've been involved in projects such as NHS Youth Forum, the Young Persons Advisory Group at Birmingham Women's and Children's Hospital, as well as starting my own projects and becoming an I Will ambassador. I am being the change I wish to see by advocating to ensure that every decision that affects young people are meaningfully engaged in the whole decision-making process. Our voices deserve to be heard, and we need to champion so that every young person knows that their voice matters and we should have a say in what our future looks like. Our lived experience is really valuable, and I also want to champion to ensure that everyone knows their voice matters, and that includes student nurses, hence why I've started my own projects within the student nurse field.
Hi, my name is Joshua Gebeloluwashe. I am the founder of Lemblue and the co-curator of a project called Our African Climate Story. Our African Climate Story works to demystify, or better still, change the homogeneity of the narratives in which the African climate story is told. And Lemblue, my organization, works to inspire young people around the country and obviously across the world on how they can take individual and collective actions to help make the world a better place. How I wish to be the change I want to see in the world is obviously, one, by telling stories that resonate. As a climate storyteller and climate activist, I personally am somebody who is of the opinion or belief that for inclusive climate action to really thrive, we need to be a bit more empathetic with the way we communicate the climate crises. If you're in a region like mine in Africa, or you're from a country like mine where 2/3 of the population lives below the poverty level, the last thing on our minds is the climate crisis. And I think there is such a need to humanize it. And so my work in being able to be the change that I want to see is to demystify what the climate crisis is, bring it down to a level that the average person can understand and empathize with, and humanize the crises by calling attention to people whose lives have been impacted by these issues. With those people who may also include the people who are below poverty levels, who are actually most impacted, but don't even know that the cause is, in fact, the climate crisis. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, my name is Anushka and I am the founder of Gen Zine, a media company for young people rewriting the future, as well as the founder and CEO of a dating app called Friend of a Friend, trying to help people meet through mutuals. I am being the change I wish to see in the world by living loudly and openly and honestly as close as I can with myself and with others. I think that being a student of the world is still the best perspective and stance we can have. And I think that since graduating and in the last few years, it's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and the mundane and just living life on a surface level. But I'm always trying to dig deep and really question what it is that I'm going through and how my peers may be experiencing similar things so that I can continue to create communities and projects and things in the world that I need, but more importantly, that other people need as well. Thanks for having me.
My name is Sam Dema, and I travel around North America delivering performances on mental health, kindness, and student leadership. I've been doing this work for the past 6 years, and I am striving to be the change by inspiring and empowering students and educators across the globe.
My name is Saoirse Exton. I'm 18 at the time of recording, but June 5th will be my 19th birthday, so I think by the time you're hearing this, I will be 19, which is weird and strange. But I'm from just outside Limerick City in Ireland. I'm a climate activist, and currently I'm a youth advisor to the UN Secretary General on climate change. I think I'm being the change by talking about the fact that as humans we are not inherently bad. There's this narrative that we are bad creatures, that we are alien to the environment around us and that we're parasites, this kind of thing. I speak Irish, which is the native language of Ireland. It's also a really old language, and by speaking it, you realize that my ancestors had this really deep connection to the environment. So, for example, the old Irish word for ploughing, coir, cannot be used in the singular. So it implies that people in ancient Ireland always ploughed together. It was a collective activity. There was kind of mutual work agreements where everyone benefited, and it was a community practice rather than just one person profiting off taking natural resources as we currently have. So I think it's about reminding people that we can be part of ecosystems, that we just have to learn how to live amongst them rather than alongside them or pushing them out. Humans are not inherently bad. We're also animals. So, yeah.
Hello everyone, my name is Kylie Matigny and I'm from Scranton, Pennsylvania, and I am the host of Talk of Fame podcast, which I started back in April 2021. And I started that because I want to interview some of the most amazing people, like athletes, actors, singers, you name it, to inspire younger generations that they can be anything in the world and no one can stop them. And I am also the founder of Empower Girls, which I founded June of 2022 to end gender bias and inclusion in the media. And to answer your question, I am being the change by creating an organization to really make a difference for young girls, to make them feel like they're represented, to have a mentor in different fields like law, politics, business, you name it. I want to make sure that young girls have mentors and to make sure they see themselves on screen in real life. So that's how I am making change, and thank you so much, Lily, for giving me this opportunity.
Hello, my name is Samuel Rubin. I'm a social impact practitioner, a climate storyteller, and a grassroots activist. And I am the change I want to be by being kinder to myself, by accepting that I am not a perfect being, that not everything I do is excellent, and that level of perfectionism doesn't help me, but rather doesn't allow me to be the fullest, most generous version of my being. And I'm just learning to be more empathetic with myself so I can be also more empathetic with others. And I realized that in the social impact business, a lot of times we unprioritize ourselves because we do the work we do because we care about others. But this is like when you are on the plane. Sometimes in order to help others, you have to help yourself first.
Hello, my name is Zandy Wong. I am a senior at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, Maryland, United States, where I study public health. A quick intro on what I do. I am mainly a student, but in my free time, I'm a huge disability advocate and teach others a lot about digital accessibility, which is the act of making sure that your digital content, like websites, social media, are accessible for all, but especially for those with disabilities. And it's really exciting that this work is being done. The question is, how are you being the change you wish to see in the world? Well, I've always dreamed of a world where accessibility is universal and having disability celebrated. So I'm really working towards making that change. What I did through research, bringing forth research about the accessibility of U.S. hospital websites and the digital public health response to COVID-19, bringing that research and having that resource available to inform policy and community decisions going on in my local community of Baltimore and international communities beyond. It's so important that we have this research to ensure that we have the backing for policies that are going to make a huge impact on a national scale and international scale as well. And through my research, I've always also been involved with advocacy and community service as well, and that's been a love of mine for a long time. So I'm hoping I get to continue that in the future and continue changing the world by making a difference through research, advocacy, and service. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I am Majo or Maria Jose. I'm a first-year international student from Oaxaca, Mexico at Washington and Lee University. I'm a former Girl Up Teen Advisor, I'm a former Girl Up Club president back in Mexico, Boise Sport advocate, and I've been doing a lot of work and advocacy work related to gender equality and climate justice, mainly in Mexico, but also in the US or in international forums. And I think I'm being the change I wish to see in the world by definitely occupying spaces and being part of conversations where I can bring up my perspective and give an intersectional approach to issues I really care about. But also I think in those conversations, I am being probably the first women or not many women before me, or especially women of color or Latin women have been able to give their perspectives and being part of the conversations. And also, of course, continue advocating and doing work in my community. And I think one of the most important things in doing so is that I can inspire other people so they can become part of the change too. So in the future, they can continue inspiring other people and the change just becomes bigger.
My name is Shiva Rajbandari. I am a trustee in the Boise Independent School District Board of Trustees and a distributed organizer with the Sunrise Movement. I'm also a student at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and I am passionate about fighting for climate justice and the liberation of all people. I am being the change by bringing people into the movement from ordinary life. I think that everybody has a place in the fight for liberation, the fight for a Green New Deal, the fight for a better world. And I think it's like our job to bring that with us everywhere we go. You know, whether it's talking to people at the grocery store or canvassing in my neighborhood or passing out flyers at school, or even just like asking a question about how something applies in a class. Those are ways that I bring people in. And I find that, you know, the vast diversity of different types of people in our movement has really helped me learn and helped me grow. Some of my best friends are artists and thinkers and really like have these engineering brains, and it's helped me become more humble as an organizer, and it's helped the organizing we do become far, far more effective. So that's how I'm being the change.
My name is Sadia, and I'm on a mission to empower young people from marginalized backgrounds to aspire to achieve their greatest aspirations and unlock their inner confidence. I do this by creating content, hosting my own podcast, the Sadia Speaks podcast, and delivering workshops and events tailored for young people to thrive. Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I'm smart, so I'm changing myself. This quote really resonates with me when asked the question, how am I being the change that I wish to see in the world? Well, I'm doing this by embracing who I am, creating a story for myself that aligns with my values and aspirations, and challenging myself each day to step outside my comfort zone and being more kind to myself and training myself to be my own biggest cheerleader and supporter. I've come to find that when you are that person for yourself, then it's easier to be that person for others as well. And one thing about change is that it always begins with us.
Hi, my name is William He. I'm the son of immigrants, and at just 17 years old, I'm the founder and CEO of Dream for America, a Gen Z organization focused on rivaling far-right youth group Turning Point USA by building the most organized, active, and powerful pro-democracy grassroots network both online and on campuses across the country to engage young Americans of all backgrounds at all times, not just on the eve of an election. Our core programs can be described by what we call the 3 C's: chapters, creators, and conferences. We're mobilizing a new generation of democracy defenders at hundreds of high school and college campuses across the country, with students starting chapters or organizing initiatives funded by our Democracy Grants program. Our creators are busy building a well-oiled media machine to take on the Goliath that is the Turning Point USA, PragerU, and other organizations' far-right media ecosystems. We're busy recruiting creators and making content that is educational, entertaining, and engaging, and appealing to students and young Americans, oftentimes with memes. All the while, we're stockpiling money, manpower, and resources to later organize flagship conferences and networking events that will build a new pipeline of young, progressive, democratic leadership for years to come. How am I being the change that I wish to see in the world? Well, firstly, whether in politics, business, or wherever else, positive change is a game of addition, not subtraction. So all the change that I'm bringing has always been a team effort. So to understand the way that we are being the change, look no further than the numbers. Since launching just months ago, we've reached 100 million Americans on social media, most of whom are 13 to 29 years old. We have chapters in 20 states and volunteers in all 50. We've doled out thousands of dollars in democracy grants to spur progressive organizing and projects on campus, from distributing contraception, banned books, and more, to mobilizing our generation to stand up to hate, anti-Semitism, and organize counter-protests against Kyle Rittenhouse and his college speaking tour sponsored by Turning Point USA. We've conducted our Pulse of Gen Z polls that inform our messaging, our Gen Z Bill of Rights policy platform, and all of our chapter organizing and advocacy. We've outraised Turning Point USA's first-year fundraising totals by 2 to 1. We've built a powerful grassroots network of students, organizers, and more, and assembled an industry-leading board of advisors with the best minds, political strategists, community leaders, and elected officials that progressive politics and our country has to offer. And we did all of that in just 6 months. It's often said that today's students are tomorrow's leaders. However, if Gen Z in our generation has proven anything, it's that today's students are already leading. And so I'm really proud of the work that we've done so far, and I'm excited for all the work that's to come. Thank you.
I'm Chantal Nicole Martinez Nieto. I'm the co-founder of the One Quinta Food Program, Sustainable PH, and Sustainarumble. I also work as a sustainability consultant, advising multilaterals, local governments, and organizations of various kinds on social impact, sustainability, and the circular economy. I seek to be the change, or I try to be the change I wish to see in the world through creating, building, growing, or enabling and advising organizations, programs, and initiatives of any kind on ways by which they can advance sustainable development where they're at. Through my life, I also seek to embody the principles and values I believe ground sustainable development. These are empathy, discipline, care, as well as a shared appreciation for the interconnectedness of everyone and everything here in this world. So through my day-to-day life, I always try to see how I can be of benefit, or at least how I could be kinder towards people, towards the environment, and of how I can be of better service through the work that I do. That's how, in my own simple ways, whether personally or professionally, I try to be the change I wish to see in the world.
Before I close out this episode, I want to thank all of the changemakers featured in this episode and all of the others who have shared their stories on Be the Change Media Network. The podcast, the radio show, and everything else would not be possible without all of you. So thank you for allowing me to amplify your voices, because this media network allows me to be the change I wish to see in the world too. And of course, I would like to say a huge thank you to all of the listeners of this podcast. I am so grateful for all of you who have continued to listen and support this podcast over the years, especially those who have been listening since that first episode on June 2nd, 2020. And I'd like to say one last huge thank you to everyone in this podcast community for your support over the last 4 years and for your passion and commitment to making the world a better place. A lot has changed since that first episode was published 4 years ago, but if there's one thing that has remained consistent, it's that change starts with community. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you want to listen to any of the episodes featuring the guests in this episode, I included the links to each of their episodes in the description of this episode. If you want to talk about anything I mentioned, please reach out to me by email at lily@bethechangepodcast.org or on Instagram at Be The Change Media Network. I am working on expanding Be the Change Media Network, which means bringing you more inspiring stories from amazing guests. And I'm going to have some very exciting updates coming soon for people who might want to get more involved. So stay tuned. If you enjoyed this episode, I would really appreciate it if you could leave the podcast a rating and a comment, because it will help these stories to reach, educate, and inspire more people. And I would also love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Tune in for my next episode, but until then, be the change you wish to see in the world. Bye, guys.